We all know what GIFs are. We use them a lot on the internet. But if I were to ask you to define what a GIF is, you would probably say a small image sequence or maybe a short video with no sound that repeats, that loops. And you would be almost correct. See, we're so used to watching GIFs loop over and over again that we don't realize that GIFs don't have to loop. They can stop. Here's an example of a GIF that plays and then just stops. It basically freezes at that last frame and it just stays there like an image forever, unless you refresh the page or something like that. Oh, and here's Pikachu just going to bed forever. I remember learning about this on a book called How to Learn HTML in 30 Days when I was like 10 years old. And other than websites that I made in the year 2000, I never actually used it. I never found a use for it. That is until recently, where out of nowhere it popped in my head and I wondered what software would allow non-looping GIFs in the first place. So the first thing that came to mind naturally was Discord. Can I send a GIF that doesn't loop? Maybe impress a couple of people. And as you can see, yeah, even though this one was broken because of the way I created it, it works. Let's see if that one works. If you drop a link, yep, it works. It stops there and then it doesn't move anymore. Pretty cool. And they usually restart when you refresh them. So if you click on another channel and you come back here, it'll start over again. Now, as a graphic designer who does motion design, I had to think about ways that it could be useful. Now, I don't have many examples because those are like very meticulous things to actually create, but I will explain my concept and I will show you an actual example and even give you some files, okay? I had two major ideas. One, it's not news anymore. Corsair sent me their brand new keyboard, and when you plug it in, it does an animation that looks something like this. And I was like, hey, this is really cool. I'd love to be able to have like a little animation maybe for my buttons, but then I don't want something that loops forever, right? You can have something that loops that is like, subtle, but if you have buttons that are constantly like emitting light or whatever, it might be a little too distracting. So I thought it would be cool if we could have transitions, if we could have like stinger transitions for Stream Deck pages. Hear me out. Basically, when you switch from one scene to another, I would want it for when the buttons change, something to go over and then the buttons to appear, right? But then I want them to stay. So a non-loopable GIF would be perfect. But is the Stream Deck software compatible with that? Does it accept non-looping GIFs? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, thankfully. I'm still a big fan of the animation in our creators, and I wanted to do something like that, but maybe a little slower. I really like the way it scans and then disappears. So very quickly, I went into Blender, a free software, and I animated the transition and then added that graphic at the bottom with a little bit of glow, then exported that as a PNG sequence because Blender doesn't let you make GIFs directly. From there, I slapped that PNG sequence into Adobe Media Encoder to create the GIF. Here I could resize it so it wouldn't be massive. And here, unfortunately, Media Encoder doesn't allow you to make non-looping GIFs. So I had to find a way to convert those. And that's where I found this website where you can basically convert any GIF into a non-looping GIF. Here you can even select what the last frame will be so it can freeze at that frame, and then generate it and download it. Did I not show you an example? Let me show you an example of the first test that I was doing. So it would go like this. You would switch your page like that, and then you see the transition coming in and the buttons would slide in basically and then stay there. So that would be your button. Of course, you would put your icons in there, or if you want some text to know what the buttons do, that's how it would work. Now, of course, after testing this and seeing the whole transition, I was like, you know what? I don't like the fact that they're all moving at the same time, especially in the video game. They're not always all scanning at the same time. Maybe I should add some delay. So back in Blender, I exported multiple colors for the buttons, and then I added some delay in between some of them. So basically color groups would have a slight delay. All right, so what's the next step? The next step is to actually add it to your Stream Deck. And by the way, I do mean any Stream Deck. You don't need this keyboard to have this animation. It works with every single Stream Deck. As you can see, I have multiple and they all work. Maybe not the Stream Deck pedal. There's no screen on that. I'm going to create a new page, and basically anything that you put in here, of course, like don't put something visual that's supposed to give you feedback. Put something that you can actually customize the icon of. My multimedia button, for example, I can set it here. And of course, this is the icon it's going to have by default. I can type something like play. You see the text is going to be at the bottom. If you want the text to be centered, you can go here, click on center. But if you want to replace the icon, click on the little arrow here, click set from file. And then in here, I can find one of my non-looping GIFs. Now, the files that I'm going to share are going to be the empty button so that you can type whatever your button does. I'm going to select this one right there. And as I said, you can see that there's no animation here, even though I can clearly see it on the actual Stream Deck. All right, look at that. I'm going to switch and then boom, you can see the animation play and the color pop up, and that's it. That's your button. Now, if you have your text, it's actually going to have, the text is going to be present when the transition is coming in. So, best case scenario, you do your own animation, but hey, it can't be perfect. Now, to have a whole complete thing, I'm gonna copy this one, paste it, nice. And then for this one, I will have a different one. I'll go with the blue one. And it's kind of cool because as soon as you add them, it starts showing on the Stream Deck. Like the animation plays once on the Stream Deck as soon as you add it. It's just a shame that it doesn't show it on screen. And then for the third row, I will have the third color, which is green. Boom, boom. Now, what does that look like in person? Now, the way I have it now, the delay is in order. So it should look something like this. If I switch it, boom, 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 and then it appears if you have the text, right? An alternative to that is, as I said, having your own logo, your own icon. I would love to have like an icon pack, but the amount of work that it would take, and also just to potentially never have this specific icon that you want, impossible. But I'm willing to demonstrate. If you create your own graphics, or if you manage to take mine and then modify it, which of course you're fine. I did not invent this, so I don't have any copyright claims to do. I'm just deleting the title here, and then I'll go back to set from file. So now, as you can see, we have the different colors with different delays. And if I switch the profile by doing this, that's the old one. Now that's the result that you can expect. You have the little scan line, and then the colors come in one by one, or, row by row. Let me do a better job at showing you. All right, hopefully that's more visible. I'm holding the webcam with my hand. If we switch to the testing one, so this is how it looked like initially. Not too bad, but yeah, wasn't a big fan of the entire transition. At least for this animation, doesn't really work out. And this is the new one that we just made. Right now, you can see it slide in and then fade in like that with the buttons, okay? If you see a little bit of glow on the buttons, that's normal, that's part of it. Like that's actually in the image, as you can see. It's not the webcam. As you can see, the webcam is pretty sharp. So as I said before, those are the 3 files that I'll send you, and they'll be empty, so nothing in here. If you manage to play around with them and put your own icons, you can. If not, you can just type in the Stream Deck software what the button does, and then you're good to go. The delay has to do with the color. So as you can see here, purple is gonna have the quickest, and then blue, and then green. But you can definitely mix match them to have a different effect. There's still an order to this one, but it should be pretty interesting. You can see that now we have the delay, except this time it's vertical instead of horizontal, or the opposite, it's horizontal. All right, I switched up the order again. Let's see what that does. Okay, now it's a little bit more chaotic and beautiful. Honestly, I love the way that looks. Let me get a little closer just to give you an idea. And this is how it looks up close with the transition, and it fades in and it stays that way. Very important. So yeah, that is concept number 1. Now the second concept is the one that I don't have examples for. There's a secret third concept. And the second one is PNGtubers. Now at their most basic, a PNGtuber is 2 images, one with the mouth closed, one with the mouth open. We can make it more complex by adding a little bit of blinking, as you can see here, and by using a software called elgato Mini that basically gives us a bunch of options like, hey, bounce when I'm talking, for example, or don't bounce, or shake, or don't do anything, for example. Now, a software like this actually accepts GIFs, and I do need to run more tests. As I said, I don't have any concrete examples here. So the issue here is that this software does not recognize non-looping GIFs, and that's a problem. And that's because what I had in mind is when the mouth opens, there could be a little animation, something maybe physics-based. Let's say if your character has hair or earrings, they would like bounce a little, right? Opens the mouth suddenly, and then a little bit of hair moves on. My friend Viking has like a Muppet PNGtuber, and it has like big googly eyes. And I wanted to imagine that if it opened, the googly eyes would, bounce around, but then settle. Of course, it would restart every time it gets triggered. But if it doesn't stop getting triggered, basically, I want it to settle forever. I don't want it to come back in a loop. One way you can achieve this is by making a GIF that is super, super long, but then you're having a pretty big file and you're putting stress on your computer for no reason. But of course, I found a solution, and that is the image reaction plugin for OBS Studio. Because of the options that it gives you, it makes it perfect. It will initially load up the images, so it will trigger them, and then it will pause forever. And then you can say, hey, you know what? Reset animation of the first image after reaction. So that's the very first image. I don't think you would want that because it would probably be you resting, so not saying anything. But hey, as I said, with the example of like earrings or hair, maybe the hair falls down, right? And you have the same option for the second image. Now, The second image is what we're mostly interested in. So I can have a static image, right? And every time I speak, it starts from scratch and it continues going until I stop. Then if I start talking again, it resets. I don't want to explain this one too much because I'd rather have concrete example. I'm gonna wait, okay? I'm going on vacation soon, so when I come back, probably I'll work on that. But I just wanted to quickly share the idea with you. You know what? While we're there, let's go to the extreme. Let me tell you my third idea. My third idea is using GIFs in order to create never before seen type of overlays. If you're an artist and you can actually draw a frame by frame animation, or if you're a 3D modeler or whatever, stinger transitions are cool. We've seen those. And we've also seen like little animation, like the webcam can move up or something like that. It can fade in. Basically, each source can have its own little transition, but it's never anything grandiose, really. And I'm not saying that this is something that you need. I'm saying that it's possible and I've never seen it before, so it could be cool to make it happen. Okay, I'll give you one example. Imagine combining the idea of a GIF that stops. Let's imagine that your whole branding is kind of like liquid, right? The whole theme, your graphics is like liquid something, right? Imagine 2D animation. When you switch to your gameplay scene, a liquid could like form at the bottom of the screen and then climb back up to form your webcam, and then boom, that's your webcam overlay and it stays there. And then you can combine it with the webcam transition to make it appear once that one animation is done. I think this in overlays and pop-ups and stinger transitions could create some sort of really, really cool artistic setup that we haven't seen before. And that's what I'm excited about. Am I gonna make it happen? I'm not a 2D animator, but I'll try. I gotta do that PNGtuber idea first and it will be good. So this is what it looks like on a regular Stream Deck. Basically, this is the profile with all the animations. You can see them pop up. And if you add them to another page, a different page, it will look like this. I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. Make sure you check out the links in the description. This is where you will find the 3 files for the 3 different colors. Again, without the icon on it. And there will also be a link to that website that allows you to turn GIFs into non-looping GIFs.